Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eltonin and we talk about fashion, lifestyle, and book content here on this channel. Through the month of June, I wanted to try to read a couple more books than I had the previous month, and I attempted to read more queer books, but it looks like everyone else at the library also wanted to read queer books, so I only got like three. I'm gonna go through a couple of things that I read this month, as well as thoughts and opinions on things, and then at the end we will go over a little bit what my July TBR is looking like. So I will see you guys in just a minute. So I read this book while waiting for this one to become available. This one I picked up from the store because I was like, oh my god, those edges, so fucking cool. The cover, really cool. The synopsis, fascinating. And now, if you're wondering my opinions of the book, yep, it was a book. It was definitely a book. I read it. I did read it. Um, About 50 pages in, I was like, I might DNF this. But I tried to give books at least 100 pages. Why? Because usually by 100 pages, something happens. Whether it be good or bad, if you get 100 pages in, it's a lot easier to figure out what's going on. So I got to 100 pages. Things finally started happening. The main character I was hoping would be interesting, and then she repeated herself a lot. The world building was kind of interesting, but I wish they went more into it. The only character I really cared about was the mentor figure. He was the only one doing things. Personally, if this had been a book through his point of view, would have been much better. I did not like the multiple POVs. I did not care for them. I did not care about them. I did not care for the man. I was glad that it was not like insta love enemies to lovers, because when he was introduced, I'm like, oh my fucking, of course, it's some dude, and you're like, oh, I hate him, but he's so sexy. Really, they did not kiss. Well, they did kiss, but they didn't like get together. I think I kind of forgot about it, but I read it. We have this book. I'm very excited to read it. It is a little bit on the chunkier side, so I think it's almost 600 pages. Yeah, just under 600 pages. I'm very interested in this. This is supposed to be one of like the queer book reads. I will return with an update, unlike the other book, which I read in 2 hours and almost DNF'd because I was like, this sucks. Also, I DNF'd the Hurricane Wars. I had it and then I looked at it and I'm like, I'm never gonna pick this up again. So I sent it back to the library because it sucked. So we are. Oh, but I did finish reading Gideon the Knight. I've been terrible about updating you, like individual timestamps, just because I keep reading all the books within like a couple hours, or like DNFing it with a couple hours. Gideon the Ninth, beautiful. I loved it. Thank God we finally had a good book, but I have high hopes for this one. We're gonna get this started. We have a little snack, we have our phone charging, we have our cats somewhere. They've run off. That I will return with an update this time. I've hit 100 pages, so I think I'm ready to give my first initial thoughts on things. I'm really enjoying Ria's POVs. Apparently, this is a multi POV story. Um, so I'm not gonna knock it because I personally don't like multiple POV stories. I prefer it when it's like one person we can dial into their story. Um, The other ones are interesting for sure. This helps with like a lot of world building, makes the world feel bigger. Like I understand the reasoning for multiple POVs. I'm just like, well, I care about the two that were introduced within the first two chapters, not anybody else. Fuck them. Um, but they're not bad. The POVs are good. I just don't care about the other two as much as I like the two main girls. But I think that's more of just like a me thing because I also didn't like that in Heavenbreaker. I think the only like multiple POV story that I enjoyed was I think the only multiple POV story that I enjoyed was The Blood of Olympus. You see this? She must sit in baskets. She has so many baskets. But no, she has to sit in that one. Anyways, we're gonna get back to the story. We're about halfway through. Things have gotten interesting. But I am tired. Things have gotten interesting. We are about halfway through. Things have gotten very interesting. I am warming up to some of the other points of view. Not all of them. But some of them I'm like, oh, hello. You're interesting now. But I'm going to go to bed, wake up tomorrow, and then get back on reading it. Right. I have finished the book. It's really good. It's really good. I think I'm gonna put it as a 4.5 star read. Like, I loved the story. I thought the characters were really interesting. I really want to read the sequel. I was just like, my only issue is just I'm personally not a major fan of multi POV stories. Like, I like stories where each book is a different POV, possibly, but all within the same book. I get really like I don't like it as much, but I did start to enjoy it the later on I got in. I was just really attached to the main two leads. I'm like, why do I need to hear about anybody else? These are the only two that matter to me. It's not that they were bad. It's that I personally am like, I want minimum, maximum like two characters. But it's really good. It's really good. The story's fascinating. The world building's really interesting. I want to pick up the other books from this author as well. I have returned with the final two books of this month's reading TBR. I read a chunk of the Hurricane Wars, and by a chunk of it, I was like, because it was on like one of those lists of like books you should read, and I'm like, oh, I love a little like interesting like sci-fi fantasy, especially if you're mixing those two elements. Really down for that. Really down for like new ideas. Sorry, my cats were looking at ghosts. Um, yeah, I did not realize it was Raylo fanfiction. Got like a couple chapters in. It was very difficult to get into, and I didn't really care about anyone. And I think the biggest thing is there was a lot of description and not a lot of dialogue, so I was very lost and nothing made sense. The things that were explained that I did understand, I was like, this sounds really familiar, and not in like the, oh, like book tropes or like, oh, interesting magic system. It's like, this is wait a second, wait a second. And then they met. I think I got to the point where not Rey and not Kylo Ren met, and I was like, I fucked up. I fucked up real bad, and this is Raylo fan fiction. In theory, I'm not against Raylo fan fiction. If it's written well, I'll read it. I just personally hate Kylo Ren. I don't like him. I don't think he's hot. I don't think he's attractive. I think he's a little piss baby that needs to go home to his mommy. Oh, wait. Can you stop being a little pest? They keep trying to walk across my keyboard. They cannot walk across my keyboard. I have things to do. Ow! Don't dig your claws into me, you little bitch. I love you so much. Stop walking across my computer. But yeah, no, it was real fan fiction, and I thought about it because I read it at the beginning of this month, and I'm like, it's a library book, so it's not like I invested money into it. But I was like, okay, cool, I'll just put it down. I read 100 pages into it. I'll try to pick it up again. That way I can say that I finished it. And then I returned it, and I like 2 days after that. And it's still there at the library. So I was like, I'll just go pick it up. And then I was like, oh wait, now I'm about to go on vacation. And then I was like, no, there's no point in it. There's no point in trying to continue it. So if it gets better, I have no idea because it was bad enough for me to be like, nope. So that is the update on Hurricane Wars. The other book that I did finish for this month, which I really, really enjoyed, was This Is How You Lose the Time War. I think this book is very interesting, specifically because it was the only book that I did not read physically. It was an audiobook, and I'm honestly quite glad that I got it as an audiobook and not a physical copy, just because it's written through like letters, basically, and I have a hard time reading letter-based books. Like, I love Dracula, love it to death. Cannot sit down and read it, only have to listen to it. Same thing with like Frankenstein. Love it to death, have to listen to it, can't read it. Or like have to like listen to and read at the same time, just because with letters my brain just skips over it. I'm a very like dialogue heavy reader, I think is what I'm learning. But I enjoyed it deeply as like a podcast type format, just because I'm pretty sure it was one voice for each of the like the POV letters, and I think that really helped with it because there's a lot of like big words and similes and metaphors and things like that, and it's written in a very interesting way. And as someone who like enjoys words, like I love a big word. I thought it was really great to have that like happening where I didn't have to try to read the words. I could just hear them and understand what they mean. Does that make sense? Alrighty, so thank you for watching all of the way through. I very much appreciate that. My July TBR is going to be a little bit shorter. As of right now, I only have two official books, and that's When the Moon Hatched, because this is a dragon book, apparently, and The Familiar by Lee Bardugo. Those are the two that I want to read this month. I have a couple more books out on loan from a library that are also technically a TBR, but I do not know when they will come in because I've had them on loan for over a month. Uh, um, biggest thing this July, however, is I'll be essentially doing Camp NaNoWriMo, working on a couple of my own stories this month. I think this month this month I'm doing a zero draft of like a dark academia, like wizard college. I'm kind of just playing with some concepts, and that's why it's very much zero draft and not like here is like a full book and outline. It's like here's ideas and we'll deal with them and make them make sense later. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And we should have a couple more videos out this month. I know I was slacking up a little bit last month, but I went to vidcon, and that was very exciting and definitely like, kicked my ass into gear and being like, hey bitch, you need to actually edit the videos that you've had recorded for 4 weeks. Oops. But yeah, we're getting back into that swing of things. Let me know what you're planning on reading in July as well, and I will see you guys later. Bye.